Yeah. Okay, nice. Okay, just a quick intro. We're here to invent a new thing and try to use ChatGPT along with PatentPal to generate the best provisional patent application possible in under 30 minutes. So with me is Efe, who is my mock inventor. So I'm going to play the role of a mock patent attorney in this like simulated invention disclosure meeting, and see like what is now possible using all of these tools to be able to produce something that is surprisingly good within a very short amount of time. So some quick disclaimers: none of this is legal advice. It's not a replacement for the expertise of a patent attorney. This is purely for educational and experimental purposes. So with all of that out of the way, we can get started and give this a shot.
Let's get started. I'm super excited.
Awesome. So yeah, earlier we kind of had an initial invention. Very briefly, this is a robot that serves coffee. So Efe is at a coffee shop right now, and he had this inspiration, eureka moment that, wouldn't it be great if we had a robot that serves coffee? So the way it works is like the robot would, take orders from a human user. I imagine the robot would then send the order to a coffee preparation station.
That'd be great.
Yeah, right. Once the coffee preparation if I can spell it, station prepares the ordered coffee, the station would send a signal to the robot. Upon receiving the signal, the robot would retrieve the order and deliver the order to the human user where they are seated. Kind of rough. The robot to retrieve the order. Okay, let's see. Okay, so robot takes order from a human user. Robot will send the order to a coffee preparation station. Once the coffee preparation station prepares the ordered coffee, the station will send a signal to the robot. Upon receiving the signal, the robot would retrieve the order and deliver the order to the human user where they are seated. Okay, pretty good.
Can we also add, do you think, can we add something like the robot upon request can add like honey or creamer to the coffee as well?
Nice. Add honey or cream to the coffee. Good. So that's some additional context. I think we can also like describe the robot briefly. And so like, I guess the question is like, tell me more about this robot, right? Like that's the invention. What are the components of the robot?
Yeah, I imagine it would be like a humanoid. So it would mimic like a human, someone who would serve coffee, let's say, in a coffee shop. So that would mean, I guess, like a head and legs, or some type of way to, go around. It could be legs walking, or it could be some type of, what is it? Like the tanks have, what do you call them? Do you know what I mean?
Say that the last
like
part again.
The tanks, like the tanks, for example, they kind of slide with some kind of like slider. It's not like really legs, but a way to, I guess, go around, right? Usually.
Yeah, is it called tracks or tank? Tracks like a tank.
Yeah. And then you would have arms to, of course, have those operations like coffee serving executed.
The robot to move coffee from one location to another. The robot would have a processor for processing data about human ordered, user submitted orders, its location in the coffee shop, and its location in the coffee shop. Let's say the robot also has sensors to detect where it is in the coffee shop, and so on. Yeah. Okay, not bad. Okay, we can definitely expand on this disclosure. So so I'm gonna ask you some questions. So one is like, what problem does it solve, and what are the advantages of the solution you're proposing?
Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, it's while it's creating the claims. So I think one advantage of it would be a more personalized service. So I guess from a user perspective, an easy way to have someone that I can ask a lot of questions about the coffee itself, like amount of knowledge. Maybe for the coffee shop, it would make it easier for the coffee shop to take orders when they have a lot of volume. Also, just from a cost perspective, if it's like a robot, I guess I don't have to tip, right? Maybe you could say.
When there's a high volume of customers, or when there is a lack of staff members present, I guess. Yeah. And you mentioned something about tips.
Yeah, I was saying like it could be a cost saving for the coffee shop, or also as a customer, we give tips because like that's kind of like an extra usually 20% cost. So I guess if you don't have to tip a robot, right, then coffee would be more affordable.
Got it. Okay, nice. I like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. I'm gonna use that to generate the claims again. All right, so we have a whole bunch of claims. Let's take a look at the first one. So first one is a coffee serving robot comprising a humanoid body capable of locomotion within a coffee shop environment, an order reception module for receiving coffee orders from a human user, a communication module for transmitting the coffee orders to a coffee preparation station, a signal reception module for receiving a signal from the coffee preparation station indicating the completion of the coffee preparation, an order retrieval module for retrieving the coffee prepared, a delivery module for delivering the prepared coffee to the human user. It's okay. Yeah. And then it has a whole bunch of dependent claims. One will be like has additional element and additive dispersing module for adding honey or cream. That was the dependence limitation you suggested. The humanoid body comprises arms for transferring coffee. They can have legs. All right, so 8, we have a method claim. That's interesting. So even though this is mostly describing a robot, it knows to generate a method claim based on the robot. So a method for serving coffee using a coffee serving robot comprising receiving an order, transmitting the order to the station, receiving a signal from the station, retrieving the prepared coffee, delivering the prepared coffee to the human user. So that all looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste this into PatentPal and generate an initial specification. All right, so a bit of cleanup needed. Let's see, a coffee serving robot. All right, so while I'm cleaning up these set of claims, Efe, like what's your kind of initial reaction to this?
I'm super impressed that it was able to break down a complex use case and invention. It wasn't like, I was thinking, yeah, maybe this will be easy for an invention like a new, like let's say a new electric car with a specific feature, right? But here we're defining something completely new, like we're defining a robot for a very specific use case. So it was able to kind of break it down and put it into the claims language.
Right. I know you're not a patent attorney previously, but you've worked with patents somewhat, and I guess like what is your thought on like kind of the claims that are being generated at this stage? I guess one question I have would be like, is this something you feel like you would want to read and kind of work with? or do you feel like it's kind of looks good enough for your purposes out of the box, or kind of how would you engage with this once you see this generated?
Yeah, so if I wanted, I was like thinking like, first of all, as someone who doesn't know how to write claims, right? It would take me a lot, even though the language doesn't seem very complicated, it would take me a lot of time to be confident that what I wrote is a legal language that a lawyer could understand, right? Like even if there was no AI, let's say I just want to take like, let's say I'm not even using PatentPal, I'm just taking a claim to someone to show, right?
Yeah.
Even that would be very hard. And just making that automate, like I imagine it would take me like at least 2 to 3 hours to do this as an inventor who doesn't know anything about how to like write claims.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a educational purpose here where it kind of gives you a rough idea of like, what do claims look like, right? And how does that relate to the invention that you have in mind?
Totally.
So I'm going to go ahead and use Midjourney here to generate some images, because like that usually takes a little bit longer. All right. So when it comes to like coming up with prompts for Midjourney, we need to be a little more creative, I think. So like, first of all, we need to say like, this is a black and white vector line drawing of a robot holding a cup of coffee in a coffee shop with a coffee machine in the background. Right, let's go with that. And like people sitting around in the coffee shop.
And let's also give it a little bit of specification about the environment. Maybe like it's like a retro coffee shop or something. Or I guess it's fine. Like I'm just thinking of the environment if it's helpful.
Yeah.
You know, like a modern coffee shop, or it could be like retro. You could say like you could say it's like a blue bottle coffee shop, maybe. I don't know. That's
blue bottle. Blue bottle
Yeah.
coffee shop with a coffee machine in the background and people sitting around in the coffee shop. All right, so let's let that process for a bit. Okay, so back to ChatGPT. So now we have a pretty decent initial draft, and I'm actually just going to download it. I'm going to download the specification for now, and we're going to build on top of it. So here, PatentPal generated from the initial set of claims 6 pages roughly of content. It includes like the abstract, the brief summary. It's generated brief description of all of the figures and detailed description of all of the figures. So now what we can do is generate some of the other sections that are not yet handled by PatentPal using ChatGPT. I close this one. All right, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write the background section of a patent application for the invention described above. All right, so we have field of the invention, description of the prior art, a summary of the invention. Okay, so let's copy the field and the description of prior art. So I'm just going to read it briefly. So present invention pertains to the field of robotics and specifically focuses on a coffee serving robot capable of autonomously taking coffee orders from customers. So we can take this and also the description of prior art. So like it talks about the problem traditional coffee shops heavily rely on human servers to prepare coffee. However, during peak hours, there's a shortage of staff members. So it seems to be describing the problem pretty well also. Okay, so we take that and then we go into, okay, I'm not gonna worry too much about formatting. Okay, so we put that in there. That's the description of prior art, field of the invention. Obviously, we'll need to fix all of the formatting issues.
Can I just make a comment here? I'm actually pretty impressed how it was able to rephrase the problem statements and also describe the combination, like the invention combines advanced robotic technology, artificial intelligence, coffee shop management. to revolutionize the coffee service industry. Like that's a very like accurate, almost like I can already see like if I were to put this up on my coffee service invention website, right? Like this is the way how I would describe it. And it's very clear and powerful.
Nice, nice. That's great. Midjourney is ready, so has generated some art for us. So we have a robot there. It seems to be serving something. Yeah, it is kind of like a coffee. Do we see a coffee machine in the back at all? We see people.
It seems there is like machine in the first left up image, I think.
How about this one? This one.
Oh yeah, this is a different. Okay.
A little bit different. I'm looking for one with a coffee machine. Oh, I see a coffee preparation station back there. So maybe we'll use this. All right.
It's like the bar or the coffee. It's like the barista station is in the back.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, like people can keep iterating on this until they get something they like. But let's see, coffee server serving robot. Okay, so we have a picture. Is there something of a processor, it's computer in the back? Let's just say that's a computer.
Yeah, that's like, I think something like,
we could,
electronic system, it seems like.
Yeah, we could have been more specific with it, but that will be like, a future update.
I think we didn't specify its height and like size. We just said like human looking, right? So we went quite creative about that.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, we have an illustration uploaded in the PatentPal. So let's label this. So it's the same elements as in the claims. This one is the coffee serving robot. I guess I should put it bottom left. All right. So that's the coffee serving robot. Let's do that. Okay. Let's see, humanoid body. Okay, so that's the humanoid body. It's a little bit hard to see. Okay, let's put that in there. Order reception module. I'm just gonna point at his head. Communications module. Okay, that's easy. That's the antenna.
Right.
A signal reception module. So that's the eyes for receiving a signal. maybe it's also the antenna. Order retrieval module. So I'll point at the arms. And then finally, like a delivery module, that's also the arms. Upright. All right, so we've labeled this. All of this now corresponds to the detailed description generated. So, figure 1 is describes a coffee serving robot, 100 according to embodiments. In some embodiments, the coffee serving robot 100 may include a humanoid body, 110, that's in there. So yeah, you kind of get the idea. We probably could have asked Midjourney to generate a simpler image so that it's easier to label.
Wow, this is impressive. It's so detailed. Like 100 may include human body, 110 capable of information, 120 with some coffee orders. Yeah. This is really, really detailed.
Yeah. All right, nice. Okay, so let's download the figures and we can take a look at the output it's generated. So there you go. So it's all labeled, ready to go. Figure 1, figure 2. These are some of the dependent claims. We could generate figure illustrations for those too, but like figure 6 would be software flowchart. And there's some other dependent claim figures as well with a few variations on the embodiments. Okay, so we have background, we have description, prior art, summary. We can actually take that summary that's generated and add that to the top of this. So we go back to ChatGPT. All right, so summary of the invention. All right, so let's copy that. Do a paste special. All right, I'll fix the formatting later. But yeah, so we have summary. Okay, so the remaining thing to do So PatentPal generates kind of a core skeleton structure for the patent, but we still need to add a bit more context so that it can be a bit more enabling. So it can have enough context so someone else with skill in the same field can recreate the invention. That's the goal. So we want to make sure we describe it in enough detail so there can be a few ways of building this out, invention out in real life, that someone who is also an expert in this field can follow the instructions and do that.
So Jack, just because I'm not very familiar with this product as much as you are, you have a lot of experience in the field. What is the what percentage of the patent generation has been automated in the process?
Yeah, so far I would say we're at like 45%. So PatentPal generates about 30% of a full utility patent. And with adding the background section, the related field, the prior art, we're adding descriptions of like the quick summary at the beginning. Now we're getting to like 45%. The next step for us is to generate additional descriptions of all of these technical concepts. Like, so like what is a robot? What is one way of implementing a robot? What is an order reception module? What are the different embodiments of that, right? Like what's one example? So maybe it's a software module, maybe it's a mechanical module, right? So there's different ways of realizing all of these kind of abstract concepts. And so it's up to the user how much detail they want to include, but we could potentially have 3 to 5 paragraphs on each of these technical concepts. And we can have additional 3 to 5 paragraphs on alternate embodiments of those same concepts. So we can very quickly build or draft around the core structure that's initially generated with PatentPal and get to a 20, 30 page patent, provisional patent application very quickly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Awesome. I'm not going to do all of the concepts, but I'll just take 1 or 2 as an example. So let's say a communications module. So I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, write 3 paragraphs on to describe one embodiment of a communications module using permissive, non-limiting language. All right, one embodiment of a communications module. Let's see what they have. All right, one embodiment of the coffee serving robot described herein includes a communications module configured to facilitate seamless, efficient communication between robot and coffee preparation station. This is awesome. It even kind of anchored this in the prior context in this conversation. The communications module employs state-of-the-art wireless technology such as Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. All right, pretty good. In this embodiment, the module is designed to support bidirectional communication, allowing the robot to receive signals and notifications from the coffee preparation station. Wow, this is all written in the context of the invention. So it's not just talking. This is really good. So let's copy that. And then we're just going to paste this in right after the initial paragraph in figure 1. And paste it right in here. So we now have additional 3 paragraphs just on what a communication modules may look like in the context of this invention. And then we can go ahead and do that for all of the other concepts. And for any one, like for a core claim elements that we want to write an alternative embodiment, we can just say like, write another 3 paragraphs on an alternative embodiment of the communications module. And ChatGPT will do the same thing, but with context of what came before. So it'll say in an alternative embodiment, the coffee serving robot incorporates a communications module that uses a combination of wired and wireless communication technology, right? So here's another way of implementing the communications module. The communications module is equipped with both Ethernet ports and wireless transceivers, enabling the robot to establish reliable connections with the coffee preparation station using either a wired or wireless communication channels. And so you get 3 paragraphs of that. So second paragraph says communications module in this alternate embodiments also includes advanced networking protocols that enable seamless integration of the coffee serving robot into existing coffee shop networks. All right, sounds good to me.
That's like already thinking 2-3 steps ahead about like how this is going to be implemented.
Absolutely. And look at the last
I didn't even think about those like when I just thought of this idea, you know?
Yeah, it's really helping to flesh out the context. So when writing a patent application is all about like inventing something new, but to being able to describe it in light of what we already know, right? That's the only way you can describe anything new. And so ChatGPT handles that part of the work for us. It still requires the inventor to come up with a new idea, but once they provide that inspiration into the language model, it will be able to leverage all of the prior internet data to be able to describe this new idea in the context of the prior art. And look at this last paragraph here. It even adds in a bit of a boilerplate legal language. It says it's important to note that the above description of the alternate embodiment is provided for illustrative purposes and should not be interpreted as limiting the scope of the coffee serving robot invention, right? So this is great. Like this is the kind of language that lawyers would often use to make sure that whatever we're describing is not limiting. So we put that alternate embodiment in here as well. All right, so let's zoom out. So we started with a 6-page application. Now we have about 8-page application now. And then if we do the same kind of exercise for all of the technical concepts as it's building out, we can very quickly get to a pretty decent sized disclosure that provides a ton of support for the invention that was initially disclosed, which was just a 1-paragraph description of a coffee serving robot or a couple of paragraphs. So here we are. Yeah, initial provisional patent application under 30 minutes. Efe, what are your thoughts on it?
Wow, I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed. It just took us like just around 25 minutes, right? And if of course there were some questions from me, interruptions. So just around in 20 minutes, we were able to generate this. So my question as an inventor, as someone who thinks about the cost and scrappiness as an entrepreneur, how much would it cost for me to, let's say if I asked a patent lawyer to do up to this point, how much would that cost for me?
Yeah, I think something like this can very easily, because it's so technically enabled, it can now be done in the ballpark range of $1,000 to $2,000 even. Assume like it took us 30 minutes. Like ultimately, it really depends on what the client wants out of it. So with this technology, it's now possible to serve a much more budget-friendly work product. So like for some clients, they really just want patent pending status. Some clients just want to put some disclosure out there, file provisional patent application, and keep moving, keep building their startup and move quickly. Provisional patents, when they're filed, they don't get examined by the patent office until within a year later when they get converted to a non-provisional. So you still have time to fix a lot of these issues. A patent attorney involved in this workflow would make sure that none of the language is limiting or disparaging. It will help make sure that they'll provide that expert perspective to make sure that there is enough coverage of all of the ideas, there's enough disclosure to support whatever claims they want to expand on later. But what's awesome about this is that there's already an initial claim set, which currently a lot of provisionals don't even have, right? So there's that initial claim set that outlines the scope of the IP. The provisional now has a bit of teeth and can tell you like how valuable this patent might be, how it might be enforced, what kind of products it might cover. So this is a pretty decent high quality provisional, especially given the time budget. And for I guess like there's an over-the-counter use case, right? For an over-the-counter provisional patent application, I think this has a lot of potential for a much wider audience who just wants to get some patents on files to give them optionality for how they want to navigate their IP portfolio later. I think this is a great tool for them.
I mean, this is fascinating. Like what I'm hearing is, first of all, this makes the process essentially like it saves 50% of the time for the patent lawyer, it seems like, right? Because it built out 50% of it. And as an inventor, instead of paying like maybe for $5,000, I could potentially get this out for like $1,000 to $2,000. Is that right?
Yeah. So what used to be like say like a 8-hour attorney product can now be done in 3 hours, right? Because it's now automating 60% of that workflow. So just imagine like even for an inventor, you can use this tool and if the inventor is willing to put in some time themselves and try to make sure the claims are drafted to the best of their liking, they can generate this initial provisional, make sure it's like well structured and reads well and proofread, and then they can take that initial provisional to a patent attorney And the attorney's perspective will be like, oh, if this is well structured and well drafted, I just need to go in and revise it. Maybe I want to broaden some of the claim terms. Maybe I want to add a bit more context here and there. Maybe I need to fix some of the verb tenses to make sure it's less disparaging or limiting, right? So it becomes more of a review kind of workflow, right? So rather than paying an attorney to start with a blank document and write everything from scratch, you're just asking an attorney, like, here is a provisional that's like 60% there. It has all of the sections. Can you take a look at it and see if we can file this provisional with just a bit more work on it?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Like, I can see how, as an inventor, it would make me feel very comfortable about, like, what am I going into? Right? Like, after doing all of this, I kind of know how it looks like, and I can see, like you said, how much value is to that. So, and I imagine, I'm not a patent lawyer, but I imagine that people don't like writing repetitive things. I saw that, there's a lot of repetitive language because of the nature of the patent. And I imagine a patent lawyer would probably have more, let's say, like, would enjoy it more not to have to write those little details, focus on the big picture, right? Like, is this patentable? How can I improve this? How can I make it really well? Instead of just like writing things from scratch and having to kind of like do a lot of repetitive sort of like sentences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This is a cool invention. I hope someday somebody reduce this to practice and make it, and we'll see it in the coffee shops here in Palo Alto and Mountain View. So yeah, thanks for going through this exercise with me, Efe.
Yeah, well, I kind of feel like now 60% of the patent is done. I just want to file it, tell me what's next, and I'm just gonna file and put it out there. And why not, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. This is so much fun. Thank you, Jack.
Awesome. Thanks, Efe.